As we have started chapter 4 from the book 2, you have already learned these two parts in the flower. There are two parts in flower, essential parts and non-essential part. It is also called as reproductive or accessory part. What do you mean by accessory part? Which do not take direct part in sexual reproduction. They are calyx and corolla. What are the reproductive part? That take part in sexual reproduction directly. What are they? Androecium and gynoecium. Gynoecium is also called as pistil. Now, calyx is called as outermost whorl and gynoecium is called as innermost whorl. These are the units of these whorls. Sepals is a unit of calyx, petals is a unit of corolla, stamens is a unit of androecium, and carpel is a unit of gynoecium. Let's see the figure. It was given on the page number 39. Figure number 4.1. What is stamen? What is petal, carpel and sepal? It was given. Just observe the figure. Now we will see this calyx and corolla in detail. As I told you, for calyx, it is the outermost whorl and the unit of calyx is called as sepal. As you have observed, they are usually green in color, but sometimes they have different color other than green. So it is called as petaloid sepal. See, I am showing you the figure. This is a flower of gulmohar. Here you can see these are the petals. These are the petals. And these are the sepals. You can see they are not in green. They are red in color. So that is example of gulmohar flower. Second example, it was given in your book also. Nasturtium flower. Here also you can see the flower is, petals are orange in color, and see these are the sepals which are not green, somewhat yellow in color. So these are the example of petaloid sepals. Now, sepals can be of two types. Based on that, flower can be polysepalous or gamosepalous. Here the word polysepalous means the sepals are free, and the gamosepalous means sepals are fused. See, I am showing you the figure. This is the mustard flower as the example was given in your book. So in mustard flower, these are the petals, and see these are the sepals. How are they? Sepals are free to each other. See, they are not joined. They are free to each other. So they are the example of polysepalous. Now this is the hibiscus flower. It is also called as China rose or shoe flower. These are the sepals. How they are? See, they are united to each other. So that's why it is called as gamosapalous. Now, sometime the additional whorl of the sepal is present outside the calyx. Remember this word very well, which is called as apicalyx. You have seen this apicalyx. Where? In shoe flower. See, in this figure, this part, they are also sepals, but they forms an additional whorl outside the calyx. So this is called as apicalyx. Okay, clear about calyx? Now we will see what are the functions of calyx. It protects the flower when they are in bud condition, and mostly when they are, sorry, my spelling mistake, green. Mostly when they are green in color, they help in the manufacture of food. Now we will see corolla. As I informed you, it is the second whorl from outside. And you can say that it is present inner to the calyx. After calyx, corolla whorl is present. The units are called as petals. As you know, they were bright in color. But same here like this, the exceptions were there. Sometimes they are green in color. So that time it is called as sepaloid petal. Now see the difference. I have written like this only. Here if the calyx are green in color, but sometime if it is color, then it is called as petaloid sepal, because they are some of the petal like color. And corolla which are brightly in color, but when they are green in color, then they are somewhat sepal like. So it is called as sepaloid petal. Okay. Petals are of two kind. On the base of that, flowers are called as polypetalous and gamopetalous. Like this. Polysepalous means free. So here polypetalous means petals are free to each other. And gamopetalous means petals are fused to each other. Now we will see, these are the petals which are green in color, which is called as sepaloid petals. Now see again the example of polypetalous mustard flower. Here you can see the petals are free to each other. So they are polypetalous. I am taking example which was given in your book. And these are the gamopetalous. The example is petunia flower. See here you can see all the petals, they were fused to each other and they are forming a tube-like structure, cone-like structure. So they are called as gamopetalous. Now we will see the functions of corolla. Because they are bright in color, they can attract the insects for pollination. And it's a second whorl from outside. Obviously, they can protect the inner essential whorls. What are the inner essential whorls? Androecium and gynoecium. And the units of it is stamens and carpels. So they can protect the stamens and carpels. Now we will see the third one, androecium, which is called as male reproductive whorl, and the unit is called as stamens. Now first we will see What is the structure of stamens? How it looks? Each stamen consists of long, slender stalk, which is called as filament. This one. This filament bear two lobe structure at the tip. You can see here, this is two lobe structure. So this two lobe structure is called as anther. An anther is attached to the filament with the help of a structure which is called as connective. Okay, so this is called as connective. You can see here this dark portion which is called as connective. Each lobe of anther contain two chambers which are called as pollen sac. It was bilobe structure. Okay, so one lobe that consists of two chambers. So total 4 pollen sacs are present in one anther. Each pollen sac therefore are fine, powdery and granular structure which are called as pollen grain. They are forming this powdery structure which are called as pollen grain. So when this pollen grain which is called as male gamete, the male gamete which is called as pollen grain, when they were matured, then this sac was ruptured, broken at some one point, and these pollens were released from this. Okay? Now I am showing you figure. For the types of stamens. There are two types of stamens, free and united. Free stamens are called as polyandrous. The example is mustard flower. Here you can see in the figure mustard flower. These are the androgyms. See, and the anthers, they are free to each other. The filaments are here and this is anther. Another filament is here, this is the anther. Like they were totally free to each other. So that's why it is called as polyandrous. Okay. Now the second portion, the second part, if they were united, then there are three types: monodelphous, didelphous and polydelphous. It means when the anthers are united by filament and forms a one group. Like this, they are united by filament and they are forming one group. Then it is called as monodelphous. Example is hibiscus. Didelphous, the filaments are united but they are making two bundles. For example, like this. Here you can see there are two bundles. So that's why it is called as didelphous. Polydelphous means the filaments united in the several group. For example, more than two group. 1, 2, then 3, 4, like that. So more than one group were present, then it is called as polydelphous. The example is bombex flower. See, this is the hibiscus flower, which is the example of monodelphous. More than one are united and making a one bundle. Okay? So this is called as monodelphous. Next, this is the example of pea flower. Here you can see one and these are the second bundle. So they are called as didelphous flower. And this is called as polydelphous flower. This is example of bombex. Here you can see many groups were there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, see. So that's why it is called as polydelphous. Now we will see gynoecium. So as you know, in gynoecium, the unit is called as carpel. Gynoecium is also called as pistil. Okay? It is innermost whorl and the unit is carpel. Now we will see what is the structure of carpel. Carpel have three parts: stigma, style and ovary. What is stigma? The terminal part. Here you can see the uppermost terminal part of the carpel, which may be the knob-like structure or sometimes it is flatten-like structure. They may be very sticky or they can be feathery. What is the main function of stigma? They are adapted to receive the pollen grain on the stigma. Here the pollen grain will come and attach. So that's why sometimes it was sticky and feathery. So that pollen grain can stick here, adhere here, or in the feathers they can be trapped. Next one is style. A slender, stalk-like supporting structure of stigma. And this function is they can connect stigma to ovary. And second function, they support the stigma. So there are two functions of style. Last one is ovary. It is a swollen basal part. At the base part it is present, which contain minute round oval structure. Here you can see these are called as ovules. Now see, this was the cross section was taken on the slide, how it looked like. Okay, so here these are the ovules. Now what is ovule? It is called as female gamete. What was the male gamete? It was pollen grain. What was the female gamete? Ovule. Now like for the stamens we have seen the types. For gynoecium also there are two kind of classification. First is on the base of number of carpels and second is on the base of whether the carpels are free or fused. As the number of carpel, if it is only one carpel, then it is called as monocarpellary. If two carpels were present, then it is called as bicarpellary. And if more than two carpels are present, then it is called as polycarpellary. The example of monocarpellary is bean and pea flower. Bicarpellary as usual mustard flower. And polycarpellary ladyfinger. Now the second kind of classification on the base of whether the carpels are free or united. So if the carpels are free, then it is called as apocarpus. And if the carpels are fused to each other, then it is called as syncarpus. The example of apocarpus is rose and example of syncarpus is hibiscus. See, I am showing here stigma. It bears the pollen grain which are yellow in color. This is the hibiscus flower. As you have seen, the hibiscus flower have 5 stigma. So these all are fused and they are running towards the style, and afterward in the ovary they are bearing 5 ovules. So this is the example of syncarpus. See, this is the zooming part, that this stigma is feathery, and whatever the yellow portion you can watch, there are pollen grains. So they can trap the pollen grain in the feathery stigma. And lastly, the types of gynoecium which I have already explained you. If they are more than one carpel and they are free to each other, then it is apocarpus. You can see the figures also. Okay, these are the carpels which are free to each other. And when it was united, see here the figure, then it is called as syncarpus. That's all for today, dear children. Next topic, placentation and inflorescence, we will see in the next class.